We are joined by Captain Larry Rooney, currently a U.S. Airways pilot. He's also he's a trained accident investigator trained by the NTSB and was a part of the investigation of U.S. Airways Flight 1549. That was the Sully-Sullenberg flight that ended up in the Hudson. Captain Rooney, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you both this morning?
We're doing very well. You serve as the Executive Vice President of the Coalition of Airline Pilots Association, and so I wanted to take your expertise as someone who has been in the cockpit. I note you haven't flown the 777, right?
That is correct. I have flown other large Boeings, the 767 and the 757 both. I'm type rated on both of those aircraft. I have flown those over the years, certainly through 30 years of airline flying. We do jump from airplane to airplane over the course of a career, so I am familiar with the larger Boeings, but no, to answer your question, I have not flown the 777.
Well, specifically, it appears that this pilot had only 43 hours in the 777, that the vast majority of his experience had been in flying jumbos, was flying the 747. Now, just looking at the aircraft, they look like they are completely different. It would be very different to fly in that the cockpit on the 747 is up so high. Would that be something that you'd have to get used to be up high? I think it's something like 3 stories high for the 747, and then to be in the 777 where the cockpit is so much lower?
Well, I mean, there is what we refer to as a sight picture on landing. It's something that, pilots gain knowledge of through practice. They would be slightly different, but don't forget, this particular pilot was, under the supervision of a more experienced pilot in this part of his training. Pilots will, historically will go through, very, very long periods of time where they'll be in a ground school type situation, where they'll be learning the systems of the airplane, and then, another several weeks in the simulator, they'll go through, all the different emergencies that would occur, including visual approaches and landings that, that they can simulate. But some of the real hands-on flying, the visual flying that was obviously involved in this particular incident, would actually be done in real time, which is what was the case here. But again, this pilot would have been supervised.
Right.
He wouldn't just have been out there on his own.
Deborah Hersman was on our program about an hour ago, and she told us that everything was going along just fine. I mean, there was nothing indicated on the cockpit recorder that suggested there was a problem until 7 seconds before impact, when somebody said, "I think we're coming in too slow," and they began to take action. But as we now know, it was too late. What do you draw from that?
Well, I mean, there's many factors, as Chairman Hersman would, certainly allude to, that an investigation of this caliber, will take months, if not years, to finally complete. And what they're looking at is, what everybody would like, obviously right after the event is the probable cause. What was the brass ring that everybody was trying to get the answer on? But just as importantly, what they'll be looking at is contributing factors to the event. The smaller things that took place that led up to the final outcome of this tragic occurrence. So those are the different items that, certainly the NTSB will be looking at. At this point, it'll be a lot of data collection that they're going through, basically sifting through wreckage and really getting a good feel of all the intricacies that went into, this tragic occurrence.
Captain Larry Rooney is our guest. He's currently a U.S. Airways pilot, and he's also the Executive Vice President of the Coalition of Airline Pilots Association. And Captain Rooney, have you been able to see the video that has been released now? There's sort of a viral video of somebody taking a home video shot across the bay there of the crash landing.
Yeah, I have, and I've seen the final wreckage, but I have not seen that particular video.
Is there anything you can glean, though, from the way the wreckage occurs and what's laid out there? As a pilot, what do you glean from that in terms of what may have gone wrong right there at the moment of impact?
Well, I mean, it would be premature, really, to draw any conclusions other than the fact that, what you can see systemically from the airplane wreckage, it appears, from observation, certainly from 3,000 miles away on a video recording, is that the airplane did obviously hit a seawall on approach to landing. So he was certainly not in the correct glide path for that runway, for the landing runway. The runway 28 left in San Francisco is a fairly long runway, and I think it's 10,000 feet long, so certainly well within the landing capability of the airplane that was on approach. But it seems to me, at least looking at the wreckage scene, that the airplane obviously came in short and impacted the seawall on its touchdown.
And let me ask you this. I think that a lot of people are really amazed and relieved that, relatively speaking, having only 2 fatalities in a crash like this and to have almost half of the passengers walk away unscathed is pretty remarkable. What goes into the training, and how much of this is because the flight staff is well-trained in terms of getting people off that plane as quickly as possible?
Well, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, this is a really critically important component. That's something that we've really trained for over the course of years. I mean, in my particular case, 30 years of airline flying, we have seen remarkable changes, and not only in technologies, but in the way that we train our crews. The fact that I really take my hats off to the cabin crew that was able to, get this many people out of an airplane, hundreds and hundreds of people in such a remarkably short period of time. The airplanes designed today is so much better for survivability.
These are very robust aircraft, aren't they?
They are. Yeah, it's a flying Iron Man suit in a lot of ways, and the fact that it does absorb quite a bit of the impact, as you could see following, the tragic occurrence this week, that people were protected a lot by the design of the airplane, the ability to get them off in a very, very quick manner, the fact that the crew was so well trained in order to get them off, considering the traumatic event that they had just been through, and the crash, fire, and rescue to be there as quickly as they were. I mean, to create an escape path in many ways for them to be able to put down fire suppression in order to get people off the airplane as quickly as possible. So it was just the concert of all those factors working together, I think, that are just remarkable outcomes of such a tragic occurrence.
So am I clear on you? Sort of what you're thinking is that, look, I mean, there seems to be at this point little doubt that there was pilot error, but the question is, how did they reach the point where that error was possible? Is that sort of where we are now?
Well, I think that they're going to be looking at many things. I mean, you can bring that up as one component, but there's so many more components that go into an investigation without just pinning it on one particular item. And that's where the NTSB is right now. And as Chairman Hersman, I'm sure, spoke about earlier this morning, although we didn't hear her interview, I think that she would echo those statements that to just claim that it was pilot error without having gone through all of the other
simplistic,
facts.
Okay.
It's too simplistic. Airline accidents and many of the factors that went into the survivability of this particular one are the result of that painstaking study that they do following each and every one of these accidents.
Well, we got to leave it right there. Captain Larry Rooney, a U.S. Airways pilot, currently working today, and we wanted to get a perspective from a pilot. We greatly appreciate you joining us.
Well, thank you very much for your time.